Welcome uh, back to the lecture on the personal economics, and now we will start looking to the model of probation. Um, as I said, basically, probation was a period where the companies usually employ their workers for a test period, and usually for a lower wage. And after this test period, they might decide to continue working with those candidates, or alternatively, they might just um, fire those workers. And in some cases, the number of probation workers might be higher than number of positions to be filled. So in that case, it might be certain the workers will be fired. In other cases, all workers that are passing a certain amount of performance might be accepted to the job. So this model is taken from your book, and it has some problems, actually, in my opinion. It is the most basic problem is the workers don't have any discount or interest rate, which means future income is not um, discounted. And under these conditions, we have the model is aiming to show that probation wage, by setting probation wage low, besides of course being able to employ some cheap workers for a while, the company is also able to prevent unproductive workers to apply to the job. So probation wage can be something, some additional benefit. I mean, lower probation wage. So um, companies might be better off by paying that. Of course, the wage ratios are very low. I mean, the um, short uh, the guy has some job which is a job that is paying him $30,000 if uh, if he won't be employed by the company, and if the company employs him, the company pays him $35,000. Actually, the difference is very, very small in this case. And then, well, in this case, based on the characteristics of the worker, we have a probability of being fired. Which is 0.001 for one of them and 0.9 for the other one. The productive one has low probability of being fired. The non-productive one has a high probability of being fired. So this is the way they calculate it. Well, we try to find what should be the probation wage which will lead the our guy with 0.1 probability of being fired and 0.9 probability of being fired will apply for the job. Of course, these are different, so we should calculate it for both of them separately, and both of them will compare the basically the present value of their income when they are not write probation wage here. When they don't apply for the job, and present value of their income when they apply for the job. And if present value of their income when they apply for the job is higher, in that case, basically, they will apply for the job. Actually, the book goes even further and assumes that there is an unproductive person, which is 0.1 probability of being fired, and productive person, which is 0.1 probability of being fired, and unproductive person, which is 0.9 probability of being fired. So alternative, so PV of alternative of not applying is simple. Years of work, that's right. If on average we assume, again, this might also change for both of them. If we assume on average, basically, each of these two persons will work 30 years. In that case, well, if there's no discount, in that case, basically, present value of not applying to the job is 900,000 Turkish dollar, let's say. But for the present value of applying, we need to in this case actually expected present value of applying, because we have two different options here. First, not fired. If the guy is not fired, the guy will get probation wage plus it will get well, it will get probation wage. So basically we will calculate these values without probation wage. And probation wage income, the income of the first year, is the same whether you are fired or whether you are not fired. So all of these are without probation wage. Without probation wage, after and let's start assuming the probation wage is 0. In that case, if you are not fired, you will get $35,000, but for one less year, because you have spent your time for the probation. If you are fired, you will get your old wage, but for one less year. And we assume our guy doesn't have any discount. That was basically the assumption. So expected value depends on probability of being fired and not fired. Let me calculate it separately for so for 0.1, actually let me do something like this. So there is no one value for this. For 0.1, it is this value times you are not fired, which is 1 minus this value plus this value times this value. I will just do something like this. I will copy this and paste this and change this to F4. So these are your present values. If your probability of being fired is low, then your present value, expected present value is high, because I mean this wage becomes more possible. You get closer to this wage. On the other hand, if your probability of being fired is low, in that case you got close to this wage basically. So for the guy whose probability of being fired is low, basically, probation wage should make expected value of present value of applying for the job higher than the present value of not applying for the job. So this should be higher than this, basically. Basically, this should be higher than this. So basically, if there's any difference between the expected present value of application without probation wage, you should add this difference by paying it as the probation wage. But in this case, actually, even without probation wage, the expected value is higher, which means actually you could even get from the applicant some money which is low, as long as the money is lower than $100,000 and $500, then the guy will basically apply for the job. For the non-productive guy, however, the value is less than 90,000, which means you need to pay $15,500 to make him apply. So basically, if you look to the values, well, to make non-productive people not apply, your probation wage should be something between 15,500 and minus 100 and 100,500 dollars. Of course, these things might change if you, for example, if your worker is risk adverse. In that case, these probabilities might be. I mean, he might give more weight to the safe option, even if the revenue of the safe option is less. Especially if those values are close, this might be the case. So in that case, if the more productive workers are also paying more attention to the safe options, I mean, they play safe, they might still not apply for the job if they are not more risky. And also, this risk. Risk adverse is something completely else, and we haven't covered it in full sense, but if you want, you can cover it. But just looking to the possibility of discounting future income gives us interesting results, sufficiently interesting results, basically. Just take this into account. Let's say both don't take any income in the first case. I mean, if we have, for example, well, in one case we have 30%, and let's say we have an interest rate which is equal to 0.1 or 0.1. Actually, I have decided to make it 0.9, and let me create a table and then continue. Now, the tables are created, and as you can see, for the 30 years of income, the future wages have smaller and smaller values. And this first $30,000 the guy is taking, if he doesn't apply for the job, becomes very valuable in this case. And present value of not applying in this case becomes this amount. Present value of not being fired has become, you got higher income, it starts from here, this amount, and present value of being fired has become this amount. So, well, we will continue in the next part. See you in the next part.